Our third speaker today is Charles Z. Radney. Charles is a certified mortgage planning specialist, corporate trainer, and a member of the Association for Talent Development. He is also a qualified speaker in District 12, and not in his intro, was a past District 12 Speakers Bureau chair. So he deserves that thanks for his effort keeping that together for a while. He teaches business owners, service professionals, and entrepreneurs on how to use public speaking as a marketing strategy to explode their business growth. Charles is here today to discuss the possible origins of our attitudes. Please join us in giving a round, warm applause to Charles C. Radney. Charles?
Let me start by asking, do you see my share screen?
Yes.
I missed what he said.
Did you see this shared screen?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. When we talk about attitudes, we all have an attitude. As Tom said, I'm Charles Radney. I'm a corporate trainer for the educational development and corporate training function of Valley College. I'm a member of ATD, which is the Association for Talent Development. I'm a Toastmaster. I've been a qualified speaker. I'm a licensed real estate professional, and my company is Are You Prepared to Present? As a corporate trainer for Valley College, I primarily work with soft skills trainings. My courses are listening skills, decision-making, change management, setting goals, time management. There's a list of classes, but the one I enjoy doing most is the class on attitudes in the workplace. I just concluded one yesterday, and it was just as fulfilling as most of them are. When I deal with the attitudes in the workplace, I think back on a statement that was made by Abraham Lincoln from the standpoint that most folks are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. Think about that, because that's where so many people are. John Maxwell has several books about attitude. And in his books on attitudes, he talks about some axioms. I'm only going to cover two today. One of the axioms is our attitude determines our approach to life. Another axiom is our attitude determines our relationship with people. Think about that. How much does your attitude play in how you deal with things, how you relate to people, how you relate to life? When you look at the screen, how many people do you know, when you look at that picture, base their lives on that glass is either half empty or half full? That's so important, because your attitude determines how you look at that. Positive people think about things being half full. Negative people look at it as half empty. We all have had journeys in life. Our journeys in life determine who we are. Our journeys in life affect how we approach things. Our journeys in life affect how we accept things. I have a very dear friend who has purchased some land up in Northern California, some gold mining land. And my suggestion to him was that when he was up there on his actual property that he owned, that it would probably be a good thing to be able to protect himself, to at least have something in case he had to deal with a four-legged or a two-legged predator. When we look at the differences in how we have journeys in life, his reluctance to having something to protect himself, I kind of wonder why he was so hesitant. But as he explained it to me, when he was 9 years old, he witnessed his father shooting his mother. Think of the impact that had on a 9-year-old to see his dad shoot his mother and understand his response from that standpoint and his reaction to guns. Me being a former NRA member and a present member of the National Association of African American Gun Owners, I'm a very staunch gun person. But he helped me understand his hesitance based on his journey in life. When we talk about attitudes and where our attitudes come from, I have a very dear friend, and when I first met this person, even though I was 5 years older than that person was, we had both gone to the same high school. We found that out very early. We'd attended East Technical High School in Cleveland, Ohio, which is the high school that both Jesse Owens and Harrison Dillard are alumni of. In a further conversation, as I was really questioning her attitude about things, I found out that not only had we attended East Technical High School 5 years apart, but we'd also gone through Friendly Inn Neighborhood Center 5 years apart, which was a community center to help develop inner center children in Cleveland, Ohio. But a statement she made later on helped me to maybe understand her attitude a little better when she said that you grew up in a house with a mother and a father that worked, where she grew up in the projects with a single mom. That gave me some insight into her attitude. When you look at what shapes a person's attitude, today we're only going to cover 4 sections: pre-birth, birth, ages 1 through 6, and ages 6 through 12. In the pre-birth category, we talk about inherent personality and the temperament that comes with inherent personality. How many of you, by show of hands, feel that there are things that can happen to you pre-birth that shape your attitude? Randy, I see your hand. Okay. I look back at my maternal grandfather. My virtual background is the town he grew up in Mason, Tennessee. My maternal grandfather, there was a time the story was told where, and we're talking about Tennessee in the 1930s, where the sheriffs came to his house looking for my uncle. And Grandpa told him he wasn't there. The sheriffs were going to come in the house anyway. And Grandpa met him at the door with a 12 gauge and said, I told you he's not here, and you're not going to just walk through my house. Now, for any of you who know anything about the South in the 30s and black sheriffs, or white sheriffs and black people, that was unheard of. I often wonder, and when I look at my grandfather and knowing that he had 11 children and 38 grandchildren, and of the 38 grandchildren, I'm the only one who inherited his hands. Where most people thought I had arthritis, it was actually a birth defect that was inherited from my granddad. But I also think that somehow I inherited his attitude when it comes to how to deal with police and authority. When you talk about in the womb experiences, by show of hands, how many of you remember when parents were not allowed into the maternity ward or the birth room when people were having a baby? And look at where we are now, where you have the in the womb experiences, and you have things like First Five California, where they really promote talking to the baby in utero, singing to the baby in utero, reading to the baby in utero, and the differences in how those babies come out versus babies who are not spoken to. Think about that. My middle son, when he was in utero, he got a lot of Miles Davis. My older 2 children weren't exposed to that because that was not what was popular in that time frame. Looking at birth environments, children continually pick up the priorities, attitudes, interests, and philosophies from their environment. If you're in a household that has both mom and dad and they're working people, and the people are comfortable, the baby's going to pick up on that. If you look at a household where the people are struggling, the babies are going to naturally pick up on that. Their birth environment is so important to the attitudes they grow into as they grow older. Think about, where did you live when you were growing up, and what influence did it have on who you are today? Randy, unmute yourself. Where were you when you grew up, and how did that influence who you are today?
Well, I was actually born in the city in Boston, Massachusetts, but I grew up in the rural area of southern New Jersey. And southern New Jersey, I was born in '54. Southern New Jersey, from the time I was probably 4 years old through high school, and it's a lot of farm country in southern New Jersey. Now it's changed over the years a little bit, but it was a small multicultural community that also was influenced by the Air Force Base, McGuire Air Force Base, and Fort Dix Army Training Center, which is equal to like a Pendleton or Marine Corps station here, Marine Base here. So it was a multicultural environment. It was a smaller community, a town, not a big city. And because we came from all walks of life, we all learned to get along with each other and, you know, respect each other's positions, but also still held on to our own cultures as well. So it was a pretty awesome upbringing. Now, we weren't rich, don't get me wrong. I was raised by a single mom, but she was a strong-willed, smart woman. So we all did really well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tom, same question. Where did you live when you were growing up, and how did that influence who you are today?
Sure. What your question was, let me listen again with my weak
Where did
ear.
you live when you were growing up, and how did it influence who you are today?
Oh, okay. Well, I was born in Chicago and lived deep in the city of Chicago until about 6, and then we moved out to the very rural community, about a square mile with 6 families. So we had both extremes of living conditions, and I think the fact that I lived out in that rural area, I learned to be more self-reliant in terms of being able to accomplish the things. And I remember at 7th grade walking around the community with a rifle over my shoulder, hunting for rabbits, and nobody called the cops or anybody else because they weren't afraid. So it was nice to be able to have some independence and grow in that rural environment. But I missed the social contact of so many other kids.
Okay. When I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, in an all-Black neighborhood. One of the stanchions of our neighborhood was a place called League Park Center, which was the home of the Cleveland Buckeyes, which was the Negro Baseball League baseball team. I had the opportunity a few years ago to have my younger 2 children with me in Cleveland. And I went to League Park to look for an old friend to talk to him. I left my children in the car in plain sight. I understand my younger 2 children were born in California in the Valley area. So they have been used to multicultural neighborhoods and integrated neighborhoods. I left them in the car, like I said, in plain sight. But if you listen to the story they told their mom, I left them on a store with crack people running up and down the street. They were scared to death. I have put their lives in danger. Where you grew up and what you were exposed to, it really deals with how your attitudes are about life. When you get into the group of the age of 1 to 6, word expression, what you hear, and adult acceptance. Think about what you heard as a little child. Think about the verbiage you heard. Think about how you were taught to express yourself. When I was a little child, we had people who had bowel movements and urinated. Doctors now talking about people peeing. That's not what we grew up with. So your word expressions and what you hear are a big part of how you grow into society and what you accept in society. And let me ask you a question. As a child, what adult had a major influence in your life?
Did you say Anna?
Yeah, Anna Napola, yes.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Charles. Well, I grew up in Sicily, in Italy, in a very small town. And for elementary school, for first grade to fifth grade, I had the same teacher. So she was like a second mom. And she influenced me as in giving me the basic of how to learn. She was teaching us everything that my mom was not teaching me, or in addition of what my mom was teaching me. So to me, the person was this elementary teacher that he was by my side for 5 years. No blood relations, but a teacher, a good teacher that helped me grow to be eventually the adult that I am now.
Okay. Karen, let me ask you the same question. As a child, what adult had a major influence in your life?
Ooh, I would have to say my grandmother, my kid's great grandmother on the maternal side in Concord, New Hampshire. That is my biggest influence, and she was sort of the matriarch of the family, and approved marriages and where you'd go to college and whether or not you should scuba dive. And she taught us to shear sheep and milk things and collect eggs and hunt and all that good stuff, and had a really amazing perspective on life, a very amazing experience. And I love her dearly to this day. And it was about a year of deep mourning when I lost her. She was a huge influence.
When you look at the group from ages 6 through 12, think about your self-image at that point and the things that really influence your self-image at that point. Marilyn, when you were 6, what were between that age group, what were your influences as far as your self-image and your exposure to new experiences? Marilyn? She may be away. When we talk about exposure to new experiences.
Oh, I'm on, yeah, I'm muted. I'm back. Is you still for me or somebody else?
No, go ahead.
Okay. My self-image, I depended on, but there's basically my parents were wonderful parents, and then my sister and myself. And we lived in Scarsdale, New York, and age 6 to 12, I had a couple of friends that we hang out with, but I always, and sometimes to this day, I always think that my sister knew everything, and I really was very subservient to her. And I really don't know why I thought that, because she didn't really, I don't know. Well, she was, I guess it was the overprotective, and my dad, I used to call him E.F. Hutton because he was a quiet man, but when he spoke, he said something very profound, and I should have listened more, but I didn't. But I call myself now a slow learner, but I'm not a no learner, because I'm learning more and more about myself.
Okay.
And right now what's helping my self-image is photography. And my dad was a very good photographer.
Okay, thank you. When you talk about exposure to new experiences, one of the things that the Cleveland school system was very strong on was field trips. We got to go to places like Severance Hall.
Mhm.
We got to be exposed to new museums, new cultures, everything. But the library was my biggest eye opener and a bigger influence on my attitude than anything else. My dad was a laborer in a brass and copper factory, but he also, through the GI Bill, has set himself up to be an electrician, to be a TV repair person. And because at that time, when he went to work on televisions, he had to go to the library to get a schematic on each TV. I was at the library with him all the time. And the library opened my eyes or gave me the opportunity to be exposed to so many different things. Think about 1960 when the James Bond series first started. That opened my eyes to so many things and different cultural things.
That
Oh,
doesn't tell me
no,
anything.
no. Maybe you
Just a
can't
list of
with,
members.
maybe you can't with this, with the
Huh?
screen share. Maybe, oh, wait a minute.
Tom, I'm about to wrap it up. One of the people in my latest class on attitudes in the workplace said, if you ain't laughing, you ain't living. Her attitude was phenomenal. Turn it back over to Tom as the Toastmaster.
Hey, thank you, Charles. Wonderful presentation to get us all thinking. And I always believe one of the great things about being in Toastmasters is getting a chance to learn about each and every one of the members of your club. And you do that in table topics, you do that in your speeches. So you helped us to learn a little bit about each other and ourselves too. So thank you, Charles, for that.